My brother slammed me into a wall for arguing over dinner. I woke up weeks later and I did something they never expected. You think you're so righteous now? Jude's face was inches from mine, his fist clenched around my sweater. Say it again. I said Dad would be ashamed of what you've become. I repeated, my voice steady despite the pain radiating from where he'd already shoved me. The sound that followed wasn't just a slam, it was the sickening crack of bone meeting plaster, and then nothing. My brother slammed me into a wall for arguing over dinner. I woke up weeks later. Hi, I'm Marjorie. Today I'm going to tell you my story, but before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. Growing up, Jude was everything a big brother should be. 5 years older than me. He taught me how to ride a bike, helped with algebra homework, and always had my back when things got tough at school. That's what made everything that happened so much harder to accept. I was 26 when it all went down, working as a dental hygienist at a family practice in suburban Cleveland. Jude had just turned 31 and was riding high as a regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company. We'd stayed close through college and early careers, meeting for dinner every Tuesday at our childhood home with Dad. Mom had passed 3 years earlier from a stroke, and those dinners became our way of keeping family traditions alive. Dad, at 62, was struggling more than he let on. The house needed repairs he couldn't afford on his retirement income, and I'd noticed him wearing the same worn-out jacket through winter, refusing to spend money on himself. That Tuesday in March, I brought it up over meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Dad, I've been thinking, I started, setting down my fork. What if I moved back in for a while? Split the utilities, help with the maintenance. Dad's eyes brightened behind his reading glasses. Marjorie, sweetheart, I couldn't ask that of you. You're not asking, I'm offering. I smiled at him. My roommate's moving to Portland next month anyway. Jude set down his glass hard enough to make the ice cubes rattle. Absolutely not. The room went cold. Dad and I both turned to stare at him. Excuse me, I said. He needs to sell this place, not enable him to keep living beyond his means. Jude's jaw was tight, a vein pulsing at his temple. I've been telling him for months, sell the house, move into one of those nice retirement communities. The sentimentality is ridiculous. Sentimentality? I felt heat rising in my chest. This is our home, Jude. Where? Mom? Mom's dead, Marjorie. His voice was flat, cold. This house won't bring her back. Dad flinched like he'd been struck. I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum floor. What the hell is wrong with you? Jude rose too, all 6'2" of him. He'd kept himself in shape, spending hours at the gym between client meetings. What's wrong with me? I'm the only one thinking practically here. Do you know what this place is worth? He could live comfortably for the rest of his life. He is sitting right here, Dad said quietly, but we were beyond hearing him. This isn't about money, I shot back. This is about family, about preserving. Preserving what? Your childhood bedroom? Grow up, Marjorie. Jude's face was flushed now. That same angry red I remembered from when we were kids and he didn't get his way. At least I'm not trying to shove our father into some facility so I can get my hands on his equity. The accusation hung in the air like a lit match near gasoline. Jude's face went from red to purple. Take that back. Why? Hit too close to home? I crossed my arms. I've seen how you look at this place like it's already yours. What's the plan, Jude? Get Dad to sell, then suddenly need a loan for that lakefront cabin your wife keeps posting about on Instagram? You little... Jude stepped around the table toward me. Dad stood, hands trembling. Kids, please! Stay out of this, Dad. Jude never took his eyes off me. Marjorie is about to learn what happens when she runs her mouth. What are you going to do, Jude? Shove me around like when we were kids? Real mature for a 31-year-old. I'm warning you. Dad would be ashamed of what you've become. The words came out calm, deliberate. I wanted them to land. They did. Jude lunged forward, grabbing my sweater with both hands. His breath was hot on my face, reeking of the whiskey he'd been drinking since he arrived. You think you're so righteous now? Jude's face was inches from mine. His fist clenched around my sweater. Say it again. I said Dad would be ashamed of what you've become. I repeated, my voice steady despite the pain radiating from where he'd already shoved me. The sound that followed wasn't just a slam. It was the sickening crack of bone meeting plaster. And then nothing. I found out later what happened next from Dad and the police reports. Jude had slammed me backward with such force that my head went through the dining room wall. The angle was bad, really bad. My skull fractured and I dropped like a stone, blood pooling on Mom's favorite rag rug she'd brought back from Vermont. Dad called 911 while Jude stood frozen, staring at my limp body like he couldn't process what he'd done. The paramedics said I was lucky to be alive. The impact had caused a severe traumatic brain injury with intracranial bleeding. They rushed me into emergency surgery. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. During that time, the world kept spinning. Jude was arrested that night for aggravated assault. Dad put up his house, the very house Jude wanted him to sell, as collateral for bail. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. My boyfriend Alex practically lived at the hospital. He was there when I finally opened my eyes, his face drawn from lack of sleep, stubble covering his usually clean-shaven jaw, wearing the same Ohio State hoodie I'd given him for his birthday. "Hey," I croaked, throat dry as sandpaper. He burst into tears, hitting the nurse call button repeatedly. "Oh my God, Marjorie, oh my God." The next hours were a blur of tests, doctors shining lights in my eyes, questions about what I remembered. The answer was not much. Everything from that Tuesday dinner onward was gone, replaced by splitting headaches and double vision that made me want to throw up. Dr. Rodriguez, my neurologist, was blunt about my condition. "You're very fortunate, Miss Collins. The surgery went well, but you have a long road ahead. The traumatic brain injury has affected your motor functions, speech, and memory processing. With therapy, we expect significant improvement, but..." Alex squeezed my hand. "But full recovery isn't guaranteed. You may have permanent deficits." The word permanent hit harder than Jude's hands ever could. I spent another 2 weeks in the hospital, then 3 months in inpatient rehabilitation at Cleveland Heights Recovery Center. The dental hygienist in me understood the exercises. I'd referred patients to PT specialists before, but understanding and executing were different things. My hands shook trying to hold a toothbrush. Words got jumbled between my brain and mouth. Walking to the bathroom left me exhausted. Dad visited every day, looking older each time. The legal bills were mounting on top of my medical expenses. Jude's lawyer was pushing for a plea deal, 2 years prison, 3 years probation. The prosecutor wanted 5 years. "I'm sorry," Dad said one afternoon, watching me struggle with a stress ball the occupational therapist had given me. "I should have stopped it, should have seen it coming. Not your fault," I managed, frustrated by how much effort each word took. "He's my son too, I failed you both." Jude never visited. His wife, Vanessa, came once. She stood in the doorway of my hospital room like she might catch something. Designer purse clutched to her chest like a shield. "Jude wanted me to tell you he's sorry," she said, not meeting my eyes. "This whole thing has been really hard on him." Alex actually laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Hard on him? Are you serious right now?" Vanessa's face flushed. He could lose everything. His job, his freedom. "Get out!" My voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. "Get out!" She left, heels clicking indignantly down the hospital corridor. The trial was set for September, 6 months after the assault. I was out of rehab by then, living with Alex in his apartment since I couldn't manage alone. My recovery had plateaued. I could walk without assistance, speak clearly most of the time, but the headaches were constant and my short-term memory was shot. Lists and phone reminders became my lifeline. I couldn't work. The precision required for dental hygiene was beyond my current capabilities. My hands still trembled. My depth perception was off and I couldn't risk hurting a patient. The practice held my position for 3 months, then had to let me go. I understood, but it still stung. Jude's lawyer tried everything to get me to drop the charges, even showing up at Alex's apartment one evening. "Miss Collins, your brother is prepared to make this right," he said, expensive suit, immaculate despite the August humidity. Full coverage of medical expenses, lost wages, pain, and suffering. We're talking mid-six figures in exchange for... Alex crossed his arms. Protective as always, dropping the criminal charges, letting this remain a family matter. I thought about the months of rehab, the career I'd lost, the constant throbbing behind my eyes. Then I thought about Dad putting up his house for bail, about justice, about consequences. No deal. Miss Collins, be reasonable. A criminal conviction helps no one. Your family, my family ended when he put me through a wall. Get out of my home. The trial was brutal. Jude's lawyer painted me as the aggressor, the ungrateful younger sister who'd provoked a moment of unfortunate reaction. They brought up every childhood fight, every teenage argument, trying to establish a pattern of mutual combat. But the medical evidence was overwhelming. Photos of the hole in the wall, my blood on the floor, X-rays of my fractured skull. My neurologist testified about the permanent damage, the likelihood I'd never practice dental hygiene again, the daily struggles I'd face for the rest of my life. Dad testified too, voice breaking as he described the attack. It wasn't a fight. Marjorie never raised a hand. Jude just exploded. The prosecutor played the 911 call. Dad's panicked voice, begging for help, saying his daughter wasn't breathing right, that there was so much blood I hadn't heard it before. Alex held my hand as I silently cried in the courtroom. Jude took the stand on day 3. He wore a conservative suit, hair neatly trimmed, looking every inch the successful businessman except for the ankle monitor bulging under his pants leg. His story had evolved. Now I'd pushed him first, threatened him, made him fear for his safety. I never meant to hurt her that badly, he said, managing to squeeze out a few tears. Marjorie is my little sister. I love her. The cross-examination destroyed him. Security footage from Dad's neighbor showed me arriving calm, carrying a casserole dish Alex had made. Phone records showed Jude had been texting Vanessa all evening about finally getting Dad to sell. His claim that I'd threatened him first fell apart when the prosecutor pointed out the physics. I'd been slammed backward, not forward, as would happen if I'd been advancing on him. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. The judge, citing the severity of injuries and Jude's lack of remorse, sentenced him to 4 years in state prison. Jude's face went white at the verdict. Vanessa sobbed loudly, mascara running down her cheeks, as they led him away in handcuffs. He looked at me for the first time since that night. I hope you're happy, he said. I wasn't. How could I be happy that my brother was going to prison, that our family was shattered, that I woke up every morning with a headache and went to bed struggling to remember what I'd done that day? But I was satisfied that justice had been served. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Jude's company fired him the day after conviction. Turns out attacking family members violated their code of conduct. Vanessa filed for divorce within a month, moving back to her parents' house in Connecticut. She wanted nothing to do with the Collins name anymore. With Jude in prison and unable to work, their house went into foreclosure. The lakefront cabin he'd been planning never materialized. Instead, his assets went to legal fees and my civil suit settlement. Dad and I grew closer through it all. I did move back home, not just to help with bills, but because we needed each other. He helped me with my exercises, reminded me about medications, drove me to appointments when the headaches made it unsafe for me to drive. I'm proud of you, he told me one evening as we watched Jeopardy together. A simple pleasure that didn't tax my injured brain, for standing up for what's right. Your mother would be too. Alex and I got engaged that Christmas. A small celebration at Dad's house. He'd been my rock through everything, never wavering, never making me feel like a burden. Even when I forgot our anniversary twice, my recovery continued slowly. I found work as a medical insurance coordinator. Less physical, more flexible hours. My occupational therapist had helped me develop systems to manage the cognitive demands. It wasn't the career I'd planned, but it paid the bills and let me help people navigate the same medical system that had saved my life. The job was remote, which was perfect. Some days my hands trembled too much to type properly. Other days the headaches were so severe I could barely look at a screen. But I could work at my own pace, take breaks when I needed them, and still contribute. Jude served 3 years of his 4-year sentence, released early for good behavior. Dad visited him monthly, but I never did. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. He moved to Phoenix after release. Got a job selling insurance last I heard. We don't talk. Sometimes Dad mentions him, careful to gauge my reaction first. I don't hate my brother, but I can't forgive him either. Not for the assault. That was a moment of rage, however inexcusable, but for trying to lie about it, for attempting to paint me as the aggressor, for never once genuinely apologizing. That's what killed any chance of reconciliation. The house Jude wanted Dad to sell so badly, still standing. Dad and I fixed it up together. Me holding flashlights and sorting screws when my hands were too shaky for detail work. We repainted the dining room, patched the wall, replaced Mom's rug. It's not just a building. It's proof that some things matter more than money. My headaches are manageable now, 4 years later. I still have bad days where words escape me or my hands won't cooperate. But I've built a life around my limitations. Alex and I married last spring in Dad's backyard under the maple tree Mom planted when Jude and I were kids. Jude wasn't invited. Vanessa sent a card, oddly enough, congratulations and an apology for that hospital visit. I appreciated the gesture, even if it came years too late. Sometimes I wonder what Jude thinks about when he's alone. Does he replay that night like I do? Does he realize that his grab for Dad's assets cost him everything? His career, his marriage, his freedom, his family. The irony is perfect, really. He wanted Dad to downsize, to liquidate, to prioritize money over memory. Instead, his actions led to his own downsizing. From executive to ex-con, from suburban house to studio apartment, from family gatherings to exile. I've learned to find joy in small victories. Completing a yoga session without trembling. Remembering an entire conversation. Making it through a day without pain medication. They're not the achievements I once imagined, but they're mine. Earned through months of grueling therapy and sheer determination. The brain injury took a lot from me. My career, my independence, my unshakable faith in family bonds. But it also revealed who truly mattered. Alex, who chose to stay, who held my hand through countless doctor appointments, who learned to read my face when words wouldn't come, who proposed knowing our life together would be different than he'd imagined. Dad, who mortgaged his beloved house for bail money, then stood by me through trial and recovery, who never once made me feel like I was asking too much when I needed help with basic tasks. Friends who adapted to my new limitations without making me feel diminished. Sarah from work, who visited every week with magazines and gossip. My college roommate, Christine, who flew in from Seattle twice to help Dad renovate the house. My neighbor, Mrs. Kowalski, who brought soup every Sunday and never asked questions when I had bad days. And Jude. He revealed himself too, just not in the way he intended. When pushed, he chose violence over words, lies over accountability, money over family. The brother who taught me to ride a bike was gone, replaced by a stranger who saw our childhood home as nothing more than equity to be extracted. Some people say I should forgive him, that holding on to anger only hurts me. Maybe they're right, but forgiveness requires repentance, and Jude has never truly apologized. Not for the assault, not for the lies, not for trying to buy his way out of consequences. His prison sentence was justice. But his current life? That's karma. Every job application that asks about criminal history. Every date who Googles his name and finds the assault conviction. Every former colleague who crosses the street to avoid him. Those are the natural consequences of his choices. I don't need revenge. Jude's own actions created his downfall, as inevitable as gravity. He slammed me into a wall, but in doing so, he demolished his own life. The wall has been patched and repainted. You'd never know violence happened there. But Jude's reputation, his relationships, his future, those can't be so easily repaired. Some walls, once broken, stay broken. I've become an advocate of sorts. I speak at brain injury support groups, sharing my story, offering hope to people struggling through their own recoveries. It's given me purpose, a way to transform trauma into something meaningful. Last month, a woman approached me after one of my talks. She was crying. "My brother did something similar," she whispered. "I've been thinking about dropping the charges, but hearing you, I realize I don't have to protect him from his own choices." I hugged her. "You deserve justice, and so does he. The kind that comes with consequences and hopefully growth, and sometimes that's exactly as it should be." Dad turned 66 last month. We celebrated with chocolate cake, Mom's recipe, in the kitchen where everything fell apart 4 years ago. Alex was there and Sarah and Mrs. Kowalski. We laughed and told stories, and Dad didn't mention Jude once. But later, when everyone had gone home, I found him in the dining room staring at the wall we'd repaired together. "You ever think about him?" I asked softly. Every day, Dad's voice was quiet. "He's still my son, but he's not the boy I raised." "No," I agreed, "he's not. Do you think he'll ever understand what he threw away?" I thought about it, really thought about it. I think he knows, but knowing and accepting are different things. Jude always had trouble with that second part. Dad nodded slowly. "Your mother used to say that about him." "Jude knows what's right," she'd say, "but his pride gets in the way of doing it." It was the most profound thing I'd heard about my brother in years. Pride, that was it. Pride made him see Dad's house as a financial burden instead of a home. Pride made him lash out when I called him on it. Pride made him lie on the witness stand. And pride was probably still keeping him from picking up the phone to say the words I'd never hear. "I'm sorry. I've started writing down my memories. The ones I still have, anyway. The good ones from before. Jude teaching me to swim at Lake Erie. Family road trips to Niagara Falls. The time he stood up to a bully who was bothering me in middle school. Those memories don't erase what he did, but they're part of the story, too. The tragedy isn't just what Jude did, it's what he became. The slow erosion of character that led to that moment. The choices, small and large, that transformed a protective big brother into someone capable of such violence. My therapist says this perspective is healthy. That I'm finding a way to hold both truths at once. That Jude was good once, and that who he became was unforgivable. It's taken 4 years to get here. If your own sibling turned violent over money or property, would you press charges? Or would family loyalty make you protect them from the consequences of their actions? I can't answer that for anyone else. I can only tell you what I learned. Sometimes love means letting justice take its course. Sometimes protecting someone from consequences isn't love at all. It's enabling. Jude needed to face what he'd done, not just to me, but to himself. Whether he ever actually does that work, I'll probably never know. But I know this. I'm still here. I wake up every morning in Mom and Dad's house, make coffee in the kitchen where it all happened, walk past the repaired wall without flinching. I go to work, help patients navigate their insurance claims, come home to Alex. It's not the life I planned, but it's mine. And after everything, that feels like victory enough. Some walls stay broken, but some people, we learn to build ourselves back stronger.